Hello students, welcome to the series on business communication. Today we are going to study the adoption to the global business. In this, we are basically going to cover the global business practices and the strategies to adjust with the global practices. We will also cover the basic aspects of the multinational companies, how they operate in global markets, what are their environments, what are the basic socio-political systems governing those practices, and the impact of IT and the labor forces on these markets. In words of Jack Welch, globalization has changed us into a company that searches the world not just to sell or to source, but to find intellectual capital, the world's best talents and greatest ideas. See, now globalization is a very big force which is impacting the business practices, which has shaped the communication to the new details. The communication is also by the strategies and the policies and the kind of the international laws which govern the businesses. Now, what is a strategy? How businesses take place are basically determined or take shape according to the design of the strategy. Strategy is designed in such a way so as to create new markets, spot new products, and to elaborate the business diversifications to the new market. The international growth in today's era is important because we are in the era of globalization, where the interconnected world is happening a new way of civilization. Through the internet and technology, we have reached to the millions of the people. The growth is through acquisition, mergers, joint ventures, and you have many issues which impact the world processes. Now let's study the basic factors which impact the global business practices. The basic factors are the political, social, economic, and technological. Now the political force is the biggest force. Before starting a business, you definitely have to understand the political philosophy of a particular country. The political doctrine is important because this basically gives you the stability to the business. The basic ethics or the subsidies or the basic structure to the shape is given by the policy of the government. Any kind of political instability or terrorism or war-like situation will put a negative impact on the businesses. So countries like Iran, Iraq, or the American countries which are genuinely in the Cold War era, countries do think before they operate their offices over there. Now let's study the economic factors. The economic factors are important because it is very essential to study the tax system, the legal systems, the monetary policies, the fiscal policies, the commodity prices, the basic stock prices available over there, the maturity of the financial markets available in a particular country, and the exchange rates. Now these factors are important and they are specific to each country. The exchange rates would basically determine the price of a commodity in the domestic and a host market in a different way. So if you have to understand the business, you have to understand the ethics of each country separately, and then you can go for multilateral agreements or multilateral trade relationships. Social factors are important because the business is genuinely existing into a social context which is designed by the values, norms, practices, language, culture, and religion. Any product which puts a positive impact on the host population of the local design of the culture is genuinely accepted by the people. So any global company also has to take into consideration the local concepts. Technological factors do shape business to a very big stretch. The technological impacts, that is, what is the availability of bandwidth in a particular country, what is the kind of ownership of the PC, or what is the impact of IT, what is the education over there, what is the kind of awareness is there. The compatibility of technology in the host country is essential to build up an operating system in the foreign destination. Now this is all about the factors which genuinely shape the forces of globalization. Globalization is a system of interconnected economies and countries working together into a single kind of a market system where the products and the principles and the systems and services merge together to give you better services with better options. The world's major marketplaces and their clusters. The world is divided into many parts. First is you have the high income countries, the upper middle income countries, the low income middle countries, and the low income countries. These are the developing countries. The total geographical clusters of the world are basically the North American countries, the European countries, and the Pacific Asian countries. So this is the kind of the power relationship which the world shares. Now this power relationship has changed in the course of time. After the post World War II era, a new era of business and connectivity has been there. People have started realizing that the self-prosperity is dependent if the other countries are helping you and supporting you. So came the NAFTA, that is the North American Free Trade agreement. Now, according to this trade agreement, trade barriers have been released or they have been eased out. The foreign investment and the kinds of the trade balances, they have been fair for people so as to do business with the connected countries. This kind of agreement, or the NAFTA, that is the North American Free Trade Agreement, was done between Canada, Mexico and United States. Then came the emergence of the European Union. The European countries came connected and they eased out their barriers in the visa and the passport regulations. Travel became free, currency became one, and business became very easy, because by this the suppliers and the stakeholders and the customers were connected of many countries put together, which made business practices very easy, and the cost of the supply of the goods reduces. This is the new era of ethics of doing businesses. Now, the basic revolution which came into the business practices was the post-liberalization era, which changed the total concept of doing business. The emergence of GATT, that is the General Agreement on Tariff and Trades, was a big kind of a revolution. This was signed, in which basically had eased out the trade barriers and we reduced the tariffs and the quota systems. Then came the World Trade Organization, which emerged in 1995 on 1st January. The World Trade Organization basically came up so as to dictate fair practices to the business world, so as to govern the policies of the multilateral relationships between various countries, and to establish fair procedures and legal procedures in such a way that the businesses are shaped by the best practices. The basic ethics which govern the international business and the globalization practices were through exports and imports. What is export? It is when you sell the goods in foreign countries. What is import? When you buy goods from foreign countries and sell in the host country. This basic relationship of trade in terms of exports and imports governs the balance of payment. If the balance of payment position is favorable, the country is prosperous and the country is rich. If the balance of the payment position is negative, that is your imports are higher than the exports, then the foreign exchange is less and the country faces problems in terms of money requirements. Now, the exchange rate of the country at a particular situation dictates the business rates. See, suppose if the foreign exchange rate or the value of the currency is very high, so for this country it will be difficult to export because the cost of production of goods is very high. So, this country will resort on import of goods from cheaper markets. But if the exchange rate is low, that is the currency is weaker, in that market the kind of exports will be favored because you get higher prices, and genuinely to import will be really difficult. Now, going international is a big way, or it is a kind of a ethic which is genuinely done on the basis when you have some kind of business practices which do need better practices, better diversification, better markets and better practices. When you enter into a domestic market and you see new opportunities, you try to export things. The first entry of going international is by establishing your branch offices in foreign countries or through outsourcing or offshoring. These are the basic practices or the first step to go international. Then either these business practices could be governed by the exports you do, the imports you do, or you establish your international firms in terms of offices there. The basic agents which govern the markets could be the supply agents or the dealers or the commission agents which are in the international market, which dictate the supply chain. Now, the strategic alliance or the joint ventures is a big way which business practices arrange, because the cost of investment is very high and the technology transfer from two countries is difficult. So, we form strategic alliance so as to reduce the cost of investment and have better practices through better technology. The foreign direct investment is another way of opting businesses in foreign markets. Now, let us see this diagram. This is the international involvement through globalization. There is high involvement in foreign markets through foreign direct investment, strategic alliances, branch offices. There is low involvement when you go for licensing or for independent agents. Now, the barriers to international trade still dictate the market because it's a difficult practice to go global or to go international. You have the socio-cultural differences, you have the economic differences and the legal impacts which govern the business practices. So, people who are genuinely able to overcome these kinds of barriers are able to work in international markets, and if the barriers could not be overcome, the practices can go wrong and you can enter into losses. The legal and the political differences genuinely relate to the quota practices, to the tariff systems, to the subsidies offered by the various governments in each country is different. Now, the legal practices would be related to the monetary and the fiscal policies, to the control of the ownership rights, the kind of the patent rights, the intellectual property rights, everything is different. So, the business practices have to study the various laws in terms of the host country and in terms of the guest country. Most of the times things become difficult because most of the practitioners of the business form cartels where they genuinely control the supply and the prices of the goods. So, maybe the foreign prices are governed not by a government structure, but they are governed by the free market economics where most of the players come into the market and try to dictate their own prices according to the demand and the supply. So, the total market is free, but what could be the strategy for you to become global? See, first of all, you have to have a kind of a domestic market. You have to establish a business in the domestic aspect in terms you must be a company in your own right. This company can go international by opening a branch office in the foreign country, and then when the branch office is successful, it can become a multinational company. How does a company become multinational company? The company basically manufactures, designs, markets the products according to the various markets available into the market. So, the multinational company is basically a more complex kind of a business where many markets are connected, where many strategies, where many advertising strategies and many distribution channels are worked on to sell the products. The advantage of multinational company is they try to differentiate their products in terms of the local availability and work on cost ethics. That is, they buy from the market where goods are cheaper and sell into the markets where goods are sold at a higher prices. Then you have the TNCs. What are TNCs? They are the transnational companies which genuinely go into the market and sell the same standardized products. Then you have the basic international companies. International companies are those companies who have the universal brands working all over the world. Like you have the Sony or you have IBM companies which genuinely sell the same products at all markets and all regions. Now, globalization is basically a force where the national economies and the business systems are becoming interlinked in such a way that the basic diversification takes place at specific needs according to the needs of the business markets and the practices. The market economy has emerged in such a way that the socialism and capitalism forces have become weak. The economic independence has become important. The technological connectivity has become important. The dictation of market is not by patriotism, but by profits. The cost governs the ethics. The total market is like a neighborhood. You buy things at lower cost and work on price ethics. Now, the communication and the transportation cost which govern the global market are shown in this diagram. Telecommunication genuinely which impacts the world market is through the internet, the satellite connectivity and the wireless technology, making the world like a global village. The optical fiber is also impacting the business practices. Let's see the factors of production into the global market. Here the factors of production in terms of labor, energy, land and capital are become universally available for people. The kind of legal barriers are decreasing. People can own resources at any country or at any point according to the prices which they have. So, globalization of market is not only to share an idea or a product. It is basically a kind of a transfer of knowledge portals. It is kind of an agenda or a forum where you are not only sharing products, but your operating strategies are also being shared, your processes are synchronized and your brand names are also working. Let's see the constants of the globalization forces working into the international markets where communication becomes difficult. We have shown you in these diagrams. First is difference in the social cultures, difference in the national differences of the business systems, the differences in the consumer behavior and the protectionist counter trends which happen in most of the global markets. The challenges before the management to overcome these forces of globalization are at the entry level. Managing people at the multinational level where the workforce diversity in terms of culture and language is becoming a very serious issue. Locating the activities available in particular markets at local areas becomes an area which has to be studied and researched upon. The globalization, standardization and customization has to be done in such a way that it synchronizes with the local needs. Now, the global standardization strategies which generally dictate the market, they are the global standard strategies and the customization strategies. See, what are standardized strategies? It is like treating the world market as one big market where your process and systems become standardized, but the localization strategy would design the product according to the climatic conditions and according to the taste, needs and the religious perceptions of the people into the host market. So, once you have to enter into standardized procedures in terms of manufacturing, in terms of quality, standards are important. International global strategies dictate those standards, but in terms of selling things you have to be very local in terms of understanding the micro aspects of the consumers. Now, let us study global capitalism. See, global capitalism is a kind of a free economy which is not just instantly happening. It is becoming a kind of a big issue or a big practice just because of technology, failures of socialism and the East Asia success. Now, why East Asia success is important? Because here the most of the cheap labor is resident. This kind of labor has been educated, this kind of labor has been connected and this kind of labor has been used up by the world economies, which is dominating the cost ethics of doing business. And so, the total scenario of the business changes in terms of international ethics, because now the outsourcing, the offshoring of business becomes easy. The international business genuinely has millions of customers joined together through the CRM processes. You have cheap labor markets, the markets flooded with goods from various countries and various brands. The organizations have become more kind of knowledge based, that is, it is not only the physical assets are becoming important, knowledge in terms of know-how is also becoming important. That is the softer aspects of technology, that is in terms of loyalty, attitude, commitment is also becoming a kind of asset which most of the organizations do value. The shape of the organization today is like they are well-oiled organizations, self-disciplined organization, artful communication is existing. They think globally, act locally and they have lot of employees who are genuinely empowered. So, this is the biggest change happening into the organization which is crossing the boundaries of the national ethics and working in international markets connected by computers. The organizations are overcoming these kinds of barriers by being more flattened in terms of hierarchy, being more decentralized, being more flexible in terms of the strategy and being more empowered. Empowered means that the employees are genuinely more knowledge based and they have more technical how, because they are into kind of collaborative systems where they have put the values, the ethics, the knowledge, the services, products together into a better combination. Now, the global opportunities which are genuinely connecting the world today are the better workforce diversity, competitions in global markets, better management, better global delivery systems and better connectivity through the transaction cost. The emergence of digital firm has shaped the world markets in a better way. Digital firm is a kind of a firm which has got digitally enabled employees and products sold online. The core business practices are genuinely synchronized with the world markets. You have the sensing techniques which genuinely are connected through computers. You have seamless flow of information through the internets and the intranets. The information is shared on the portal basis. So, this is the role of kind of information which is governing different ethics in different markets. Now, the global opportunities where make you in terms of better positions also give you high operational excellence. They genuinely design new products and new services in the knowledge based economy. The customer and the suppliers are connected in a better way. The improved decision making practices are the new ethics of the market. The competitive advantages and the survival has become easy for the firms because you have right combination of things at the right place. The effectiveness, efficiency and the best practices are genuinely the result of the synchronization and the collaboration. The strategic objective of the total business systems is to have a kind of a competition where the products are emerging with shorter and better life cycle products. You have to react to the turbulent market and come up with the kind of new design strategies and new design products. You have to expand the employee base. Now, let us study the global business challenges. The global business challenges are beautifully displayed in this diagram. See these modules. In this you have the global IT business strategies, then you have the global business architecture, you have the global information issues and you have the global systems. This is the total management areas which are genuinely governing the world markets. Now, the IT strategy would be connectivity through the internet or the intranet. The enterprise architecture is the kind of the emergence of the virtual organizations which are generally in terms only available on the physical spaces of the computers. The global information system is again the kind of the connectivity to the various internets, and the global system development is like you genuinely had a collaborative kind of a process which synchronizes various markets. Now, this kind of business practices which are governing the world market basically depends on the nature of the industry. It also depends on the competitive factors and when the environmental factors available in the particular economy. If these factors are favorable, then only this kind of system can emerge. But then there are many businesses where these kind of practices are not prevailing, and genuinely the customers are depending on the local services and the local products. So, the basic drivers for governing the businesses could be better because you have a market synchronized by the drivers. What are these drivers? Let's see in this diagram. You have the global customers wanting better products and better services because they are more knowledgeable, more aware and more educated. These are the urban markets. Then you have the global products designed and shaped by the international practices, better quality and better kind of technology. Then you have the global operations and resources. Global operations and resources is every country has a kind of a resource which is genuinely not available in other countries. So, you have geocentrical geographical conditions dictating the resources. The cost is differentiated because of the availability of a particular resource at a particular country. This results into global collaboration. Global collaboration is a kind of a partnership where genuinely the connectivity in terms of resources is done. So, you have a better edge to do business. Now, the governance and the compliance is important. Governance is a method or a system of government management to control the business practices. Compliance is the act of confirming, or it is the act of accountability. When you are in a kind of an internet world, your accountability is important because genuinely if the customers pay money and you are not able to comply, the company will definitely lose an image or a brand. Now, integrating the global systems is a big way and it is a big kind of a dimension impacting the world markets. The global systems are important for your survival. They are a kind of a revolution for the organizations. Now, let us see what is the impact of these systems on the strategies. Here is a beautiful diagram where each dimension is projected into a strategy. Integration of businesses through technology. So, you have a business strategy which is generally the result of market evolution. You have financial resources because of better financial forecast available into the market and better financial institutions prevailing into the market. You have infrastructure governed by the technological evolution. Better is the technological advancement, better is the bandwidth, better is the infrastructure connected. Human resources emerge, or better transfer of human resources takes place because there is a knowledge transfer. The technically advanced people with many skills in terms of knowledge, technical abilities and in terms of character are getting connected. You have information systems because the opportunities are genuinely available into the markets. You have processes, but they are standardized. Standardized is most of the business practices are genuinely done in such a way that they impact for the betterment of the total system. Then you have organizations which are designed according to the culture and climate of the particular situation. Then you have projects which are genuinely completed on priority basis. So, this is the total system of the global markets where you have integration of strategies and systems to emerge into a kind of a practice which genuinely dictates the global markets in a better way. The international business is becoming more easier, but still it is more complex because you are dealing with lot of diverse skills, diverse languages and diverse customers. The stakeholders are too diverse in too many markets. The 21st century organization trends are impacting the business in such a way that innovation is becoming important, learning is becoming important, knowledge transfer is becoming important and technology is genuinely indispensable. Let us see this diagram in which the innovation passes the various phases to dictate the market practices. First is when you find a competitive edge into the market, assemble the innovation hothouses, reward the risk takers, then celebrate the diversity of the workforce available with you. Look around to the world also and mix practitioners and developers together to design better products and better services. This is how we work into the world market because innovation genuinely dictates the world ethics in terms of new products, new services, new technology, luring the customers from all over the world and millions getting connected on over computers. But this all aspect of governance and connectivity is genuinely designed by the social responsibility, corporate policy and corporate social responsibility. The ethics are important, the sustainability are important, the total ecosystem in terms of green revolution or in terms of building the environment with better quality of awareness is also important. The business practices are designed in such a way that the social issues related to women empowerment, child workforce is important, that is we do not have to use children in our business practices and give them a better life. So, these are generally a kind of world ethics values integrated into systems to design a market which is virtually connected by people in terms of computers. Virtualization is a new trend impacting the world markets. Now, what is virtualization? Virtualization is a framework of dividing the resources of a computer into multiple execution of environment. Virtualization software allows multiple programs on a single machine and move programs from one computer to another and then fly. So, this is a kind of a virtualization is genuinely most of the operations are taking online. The organizations are virtually getting connected because of social networking. Let's see in this pyramid where social networking has given advantages to the organization. You have passive search, you have boomerangs and you have marketing networks. Now, passive search is a search through computers of the employees and the people who have the best capabilities connected together. See, like Google search is designing a Wikipedia where knowledge is required. So, all the experts from all over the world who genuinely have knowledge can get connected, write and send. They are paid electronically. So, this is how passive search starts with people to look into the knowledge areas which are more specialized, expertise area and research based. But the world is connected. Anywhere you are sitting, you can get connected. Boomerangs is an effort or a strategy designed by the company in such a way that the websites try to search for employees who have worked with the company previously and want to return back. If they come back to the company, it will be at a lesser cost because the hiring cost is less and they are generally updated with all the techniques of the markets. Then marketing networking is a kind of a connectivity where you are advertising products through social networking. The word of mouth publicity becomes very important for people to genuinely sell the products through networks. The virtual trade is important because let's see in this diagram you have the virtual organization in terms of the virtual market. Two primary types of virtual trends which govern the market are the virtual worlds and the virtual workforce. We have shown you in this diagram, you have a virtual organization put into this cup which has virtual workforce or taking the connectivity from the world markets. Now, the virtual workforce is a kind of a workforce which is working anywhere in the world in any situation, whether it is rural or urban, but any kind of technical aspect gets connected through the computers. This has genuinely impacted the businesses because it is more realistic in terms because it is convenient and it has reduced the mobility of the people. It has catered to their personal lifestyles. It genuinely has designed the businesses with virtual communications to better strategies. It has personalized products, personalized your work tailor schedules and genuinely have designed products to customize each customer's need. You have multiple service options and you have minimum maintenance. So, this is the kind of trends which are coming into the work markets, designing the lifestyle and the working styles of the people. The globalization markets are genuinely also dominant by the virtual nations, where the nations get interconnected through their policies and procedures also. Each nation, when comes into a kind of a bilateral agreement, has to design a policy in such a way that it suits the policy structure of the other nation. Then one more country gets connected, it becomes multilateral. So, you have virtual nations genuinely connected by the virtual effect of the computers. The corporate life is becoming more flexible because the people working into the kind of the companies are big assets. Any company which is valuable because their employees are important in terms of knowledge and technical know-how. Companies genuinely not only have physical assets which genuinely add up to the accountability of the company in terms of their book value. The company's total asset value is also estimated by the knowledge of the employees. Knowledgeable employees are important because you genuinely have to deal with the technology transfer. You are dealing with the global supply chains where you are getting connected with the stakeholders also. The joint ventures in terms of connectivity is becoming important, and you have free trade agreements which generally need to be studied by legal practitioners. Then you have mergers and buyouts or takeovers, genuinely where knowledgeable people work in a better options. Let's see this new world where the markets are connected. This diagram, how they are connected. First is you have a cultural frame of the home country, you have a cultural frame of the foreign country, that is the non-home country. Then you have the sender and the receiver. In between, these are connected by the ethnocentrism culture, false attributes, stereotypes, etiquettes in terms of non-verbal behavior, time and place also impacts, the status and the power styles of the people impact, and the language impact the business practices. So when you are working online or offline, both these practices and both the host market become important. And the new need for effective HR support is required because you have to train people in all these aspects, whether it is body language or it is the style or the language in terms of oral communication. Let's see in this diagram where you have the x and the y axis. On y axis you have the operational maturity. On the x axis you have the organizational maturity. The strategy develops into kind of skills for marketing, into skills for product services, into skills for organization design, into resource management, and then it is basically enhances the shareholders values. So this diagram basically explains you how from each step from strategy how you get the enhanced shareholders value in terms of the last output. So this is an important global strategic driver which helps to design the markets in a better way. Now let's see the global market trends in terms of reality, what is happening to the world markets. Organization in terms of connectivity are increasing, the speed of change is impacting in a better way, cost of transaction is reducing, technology is impacting, and then the interconnected markets are increasing. The customer base demand is genuinely tailor-made. The new market creation in this diagram is shown because genuinely all the companies need to create and design products for different markets. You have the customer base today, you have the unexploited opportunity, and you have the unexploited markets also. But then for you it is important that you create new market. Leadership challenges, that is, it's changing in the new economy. In the old economy, it was a kind of incremental change where the leaders had to deal with little changes. But in the new economy, the constant and the radical change is happening in such a way that the leaders definitely have to have more pressure to deal with these changes. Then you have the business concept of innovation designed in such a way that the business models in terms of innovative practices have to be built in a better way. Then you have the organization culture. Now the organization culture is basically in the globalized world has to be studied in a better way because the strategy, the organization in terms of leadership and values and the global business is genuinely a kind of a vast topic which requires immense skills on part of employees and on part of customers to genuinely get connected into a world which is designed and dictated by the global forces of liberalization and genuinely free trade. This free trade is genuinely a boon to the Indian customers and to the foreign customers because you are getting better products and better services at cost which is much lower than decades back. The only cost which is impacting the economy is the energy cost. Otherwise, most of the products genuinely have had a kind of a cost which is genuinely affordable by most of the customers, not only in urban areas but into the rural markets. This is genuinely a magical world of global connectivity where the adoption of the business practices has made life better for people. I hope these students must have understood the impact of the global strategies in terms of connectivity and how you can connect or adopt to the global business practices. Thank you, students.